Good morning, guys, and welcome to Open Smart. It was great that we did find that winner in the first, the greenie at 15-1, Dance My Lord. And let's see if we can find another winner today. It looks pretty tough, and we start off with the juvenile plates, which, quite frankly, I'm not very fond of. The one I like the most is actually not rated very well, and that is Wakanda. And the reason for that is purely because of his extremely good adjusted time over the 1160. Now, whether that adjusted time is correct or not, we don't know, but 58.63 over the 1160 Turffontein is quite strong, is very close to flying. Wakanda will be my first choice. My second choice will be Tinder Dry, and my third choice would be Flowers Ridge, and then Flashy Apache, and then the Mike the Cock first timer in Aragosta. If he gets any money or any support, then he's definitely interested. And then Noble Striker with Warren Kennedy taking the ride again. Just looking at some collateral form here, Tinder Dry on the 11th of March beat Noble Striker. That was when Pierre Strydom was taking the ride, and 5.5 lengths behind the winner, with Tinder Dry being 3.75 behind the winner. So only 1.75 lengths in it. And Tinder Dry had a 10 draw, so a little bit worse draw. He's got a 9 draw again today. Noble Striker's got a 1 draw. In that same race was Flashy Apache as well. And Flashy Apache was only 1.2 behind Noble Striker. So quite a few in there. Kamalo's taking the ride on Flashy Apache today, but he does give 1.5 kilos away because of taking the ride, and not J.R. Seister that had the 1.5 kilo Appy claim. But yeah, a bit of a hunch on this Wakanda here based on that 58.63, which was a really good 1160 time for me, but nothing to get too excited about in these maiden plates, because they quickly and differently mature and improve. So it is a bit of well, the whole South African racing is a bit of a gamble at the moment, to be quite honest. In the second race, here I've loaded up in the bipod again. I've taken 6, 11, 3, 4, 1, 9, 7. 11 because of Wayo Mowing and Wai Chong Mowing getting together. Splash of Green, they've only had the one run. And Splash of Green also had a decent adjusted time over the 1160. Not as good as Wakanda in the previous. Second best for me is Freedom of Choice, and then Gilda Grey, Heirloom Rose, Route 66. All of them pretty close to one another from what I can gather, and based on improving and not improving. And then Coral Dawn's the favorite, which I don't quite understand at the moment, to be quite honest with you. 1160 was all he had. Robbie Sage took that ride. It was 12 back, drifted to 40 over the 1160. And in that same race was Splash of Green that beat him by 0.25 of a length. And then in that same race was Route 66, that was starting at 5.5 and made huge improvement when Ferraris was giving way to Lyle Hewitson at Gravel on the 5th of April. So if he repeats that run over the further 1400 again today, Route 66 must be taken into contention here as well. And then Gilda Grey was in that same race as well, and Gilda Grey has been improving on his 2 runs over the 1400. So a bit of a tricky affair for me. Yeah, I've gone Splash of Green and Freedom of Choice as my first 2, then Gilda Grey, Route 66, Heirlooms Rose, and then Coral Drawn. So I've loaded up in my bipod there. In the third, yeah, I quite like Kurari Ferrari and backup Ecstatic Green, and then maybe Gayan Glory. And just purely looking at Kurari Ferrari and Ecstatic Green, their very last runs was very good on versus the industry standard graduation plate 1450 class B. You can see the bad figures was very close to 0 here, 0 being the best in the industry here. So that means Ecstatic Green on 0.4 on the 11th of the 3rd when there was a little bit of support on Lyle Hewitson, and then Ecstatic Green and Ferrari ran against each other, where it was expected that Ecstatic Green was doing a hell of a lot better than he did. He finished 5.5 lengths behind the winner in fourth place, where Ferrari was 4.5 lengths ahead of him in second place. So that 4.5 lengths combined with the half a kilo more for Lyle Hewitson today suggests that Ferrari should still beat Ecstatic Green, but now the tongue tie is removed, and if we look back at the tongue tie, second, first, fourth, second, first, and running in some very nice feature events here as well. Ecstatic Green must have a similar chance than Ferrari, with maybe for me Ecstatic Green the slightly stronger candidate. And then the favorite Miss Elegance. There's a few things going against Miss Elegance for me. First of all, yeah, he did run in quite a few very decent runs, but his 1450 form over the Turffontein Inside track provides a 31.05 and a 24.13 bat figure versus Ecstatic Green's 0.4, 4.89 and Ferrari 0.06. I would prefer the much better odds in 5.5 and 4 on Ferrari and Ecstatic Green. So those would be my two that I'm hedging here in this race. Guyan Glory is an interesting runner for me as well. He does have these 5.25 and 3.05, and if you compare that, Guyan Glory's 11th of March run, he was just behind Ecstatic Green on that day, only 1.5 lengths, and then he was actually ahead of Ecstatic Green on the 30th of March, but he does carry 1.5 kilos more today versus Ecstatic Green's only carrying a half a kilo more, so there'll be a little bit less between these two today. And if you compare those runs against Ferrari, then of course he's only 1 length behind, and Ecstatic Green was a 5.5 lengths behind with a half a kilo better, and Guyan Glory was 3.75 lengths behind but 1.5 kilos worse off. So I'm going to put Ferrari by Ecstatic by Guyan Glory, and then only the favorite in Miss Elegance. Moving over to the fourth race. And here my first choice is Bartholdi, followed by a bit of an outsider run, April Run, followed by Bold Jazz, the favorite, and then Bowie, and then Reunion. And I think one of those 5 is probably enough to get through the pick 6, 3, 7, 1, 4, 5, but very little separating them. Bowie has an interesting bit of value for me here, because if I'm taking that run on the 30th of March, 1450, Solomon's is now 1.5 more, where Bartholdi is half less, so there's a 2 kilo swing, but there was a 5.35 lengths difference, so the 2 kilo swing is basically not going to be enough for Bartholdi. He'll have to produce some more, and there was a lot of support here from 90 to 4.25 on Bowie. So I do think that Bowie is a serious contender again here. So Bartholdi, Bowie, Run April Run, Reunion, and Bold Jazz, followed by the Terry coupling in Nchlamu that doesn't have the best bat figures here compared to the other bat figures. Moving over to the fifth, and maybe a bit of a value bet here in hedging Star Flash and Governor's Glory. You can see why I'm leaning towards that. I'm looking at a 1.09 and a 0.99 bat figure. And then the next best is El Romiachi at 14 to 1, a 6, and a Whipping Boy at 20 to 1, a 5.41, and Ivalo's Prince at 4.83 in red outside the category of today. So the favorite Sounds of Summer has to improve quite a bit coming back from that rest, and therefore I'm more towards Star Flash and Governor's Glory in this race. Double Martini is another one. I think Terry could be having quite a decent day. It looks like he's coming with a bit of an intention today. So another one that needs to be respected, but this 1.09 and 2.12 bat figure and this 0.99, 5.3 and 6 bat figures are looking the best for me on Star Flash and Governor's Glory. So those are my two best ones here. In the 6th, maybe take a bit of a chance in only 2, 5 and 3, or maybe the 7th as well. But I like 2, 5 and 3 to be one of those as the winner. You can see my bat figures of 7, 6 and 7, and then the next best is Joey Soma with the 12, and there's some red ones on Validus. That could be anything since that red figures is quite good. So if your squadron is a greenie, I sort of leaning towards Cash Time because Ashley Fortune has 3 runners in this race from the 8, and that in itself just to me means that there's quite a bit of intentions here by Ashley Fortune for this race. And yeah, Calvin Hubbard takes my first choice and not the favorite, which is Master and Man. And you can sort of understand why I would say that if you just look at the details between these two. The MR80 on the 8th of April, Cash Time was carrying a 61.5 and he's now 2 kilos less, and he was 5 into 11 in the betting. If you look at his previous runs, a 6.95 over the 2,400, and that 6.95 bat is quite a lot better than any of the Master and Man's 18, 19, 16, 21 lengths. So a bit of a lean towards cash time here for me, but yeah, all of those mentioned, it's a bit of an open affair if you consider the distance and the intentions and the state of South African racing. Then any one of those could really win because they really decide beforehand do they want to win. In the 7th race, I have gone with Romeo's Magic as my first choice, followed by Tarry on Earl for the second choice, then Bold Resolve my third, and Great Warrior my fourth. But I'm also going to spend a bit of a respect on Liverpool Legend, since Romeo's Magic is the favorite. It would not make any surprise to me to see Liverpool Legend win this race, because he's the St. Grey favorite and it comes at a much better price. So Romeo's Magic, Bold Resolve, Earl, Great Warrior and Liverpool Legend, those 5 I think is where the winner will be coming from. I have added the 3 and the 6, the Sash and Cool Baikal in my bigger perms, but I'm hoping 17428 is enough. And then in the very last, the lucky last, I would be quite interested to see how Ferrari goes earlier in the 3rd race, because that will give me a bit more intentions on Waltzing L, but purely from a data lengths perspective, Sergey has to be my first choice. If I look at the bat figures here of Sergey a naught versus the second best of Batsy on 9 lengths behind on Royal Wedding, Mitsubishi, Diamond, Masakan, and that really leads me to think that the consistency is definitely with Sergey. So I ended up with him as my first choice, White Fang as my second choice, and Waltzing L as my third choice, with my next best perhaps the 3 Masakan, with the Cock and Yeni taking the irons here. So 1, 2, 5, 3 in the last leg of the pick 6, or the last race of the day. Just having a quick look at the JTR combo sheet. You can see the rankings. There's a 3.7, a 3.6 and a 3.4, so, and another 3.89, so those are very close together in the first. In the second, there is a 296 from Freedom of Choice, but a 337 from Gilda Gray, and a 4.5 from Route 66 and a 4.3. Also means that is quite a close affair as well. In the third, you can see Ferrari on a 2.1 is a nice ranking average. The second best is 2.9 here for Ecstatic Green, and then there's a gap to 3.8 on Miss Elegance and 4 on Moments Like This. The fourth race, we've got Azzy and Kumalo here on a 2.72 on Bartoldi, and then a little bit of a gap from there to a 3.63 on Run April Run, 3.68 Bold Jazz, and then quite a few fours for Reunion, Bowie, and Nchlamu. So yeah, maybe the first three is got a bit of an advantage on the rest. In the fifth race, you can see why there's a bit of value for me in Star Flash and Governor's Glory, because they're 2.79 and 2.74, and then the next best is only popping on a 4.9 in Double Martini. So I quite think that those first two should be enough for your By Potter and PA. In the sixth race, Ashley Fortune on Cash Time 2.54, and Doris Sham on FS Squadron 2.64. Very little between those two. And then you got Sean Terry here on a 3.32 on Have a Go Joe. And then after that, the next is only a 5, and the 5s are close together with Validus and Master and Man, as well as Call Me Master and Our Kois. And the seventh race, you can see quite a tough little race this, because the best in the field is only a 4.03 on Romeo's Magic, and a 4.11 on Earl, and a 4.14 on Bold Resolve. And then there's a bit of a gap from the 4.14 to the next best, only coming from a 5.3 in Great Warrior and a 5.9 in Liverpool Legend. The last one of the day, again the best is only a 4.1 in Sergey, 4.76 is Masakan, 4.58 is White Fang, and 4.66 is Waltzing L. And it doesn't stop there, because there's a 5 here in Diamond Shine, and then there's quite a gap out to the Mitsubishi on 6.15. So all in all considered, yeah, do have a look at the intentions today as well, and the JTR combo sheet does suggest that here Ashley Fortune comes with a bit of intentions. Bar and Bootis is the only run on Star Flash for today. Does pop up with some nice yellow and greens first and second ranks. Then the best for Warren Kennedy is probably here Noble Strike, considering he's 378s, and then there's not much at the back here for Spies. Doris Sham here with FS Squadron, that's pretty decent. Erica Veronice on Ferrari looks pretty decent there, not too bad on the stablemate Waltzing L in the last. Then Fanny Bronkhorst in the very first is his best chance and only chance. Tinder Dry, Gary Alexander's Guyan Glory and Call Me Master must both have some decent place chances. Janse van Vieren, Run April Run, and Bold Decision, the similar place kind of chances. As he has a decent shout here, I believe, with his 2.7 in Bartoldi, and then the second best is only a 4.58. You can see both of those with Kamala on White Fang, and then the Sash with Mowing, and then the Cock could be in on Flowers Ridge, as well as Governor's Glory and Bold Resolve at with Craig Zaki taking that ride. Then we move down here to Paul Peter. He's got some nice runners in Freedom of Choice, decent here as well on Reunion, and also decent in Sergey at the back. And then Terry has quite a few triers, Route 66, Ecstatic Green, Bowie, as well as Nchlamu, Double Martini, Have a Go Joe, Earl, and maybe a lesser extent Royal Wedding at the back. St. John Grey, best is probably Gilda Grey, and then also Romeo's Magic. And then Tyron Zaki in the very first year with Kamalo, Flashy Apache. You can see why he's got Kamalo booked there. More intentions on that ride. So all in all, a bit tricky, and hope you make some profit. Have a great day.